Welcome to the official Jets podcast. Eric Allen here at One Jets Drive, joined by a special guest today, Benkert, former NFL quarterback who is a content creator, a gamer, a father, a husband, and you're coming in today. You're talking to us from Hawaii, which actually I think it's 5 o'clock in the morning there.
It's 5 o'clock. We just got in yesterday, so I don't want to sound like a superhero. So we're still on Central Time. But yeah, it's pretty early.
Listen, I'll tell you what. How much are you enjoying things post NFL career, because you are so busy right now?
Yeah, I love it. It's been fun to be able to transition the way I have. I do miss playing, and I still miss like being in the locker room and stuff. But I've been super fortunate that things have played out the way they have been, and that a few different things have taken off.
So, can you talk about some of those things that have taken off for you?
Yeah. So I do work with Sleeper, the fantasy football app, where I do just analysis breakdowns. We launched a show called Pocket Presence that I do every week, and then we do quarterback breakdowns with that in season and out of season, and that's with Sleeper. And then I do stuff on my own personal YouTube, just Kurt Benkert YouTube, where I teach football through Madden, and that's probably been like the biggest, I would say, the most fulfilling one after leaving, because I'm still attached to the game just in a way that I want to be, and I'm kind of scaling, sharing what I know to millions of people. So it's been pretty cool to dive into those two things.
When did that idea originate, Kurt, as far as teaching football via Madden? And also, as a guy, not like many who played Madden, you played in the National Football League. What helps you in terms of your experience in the league as far as taking that and then not only playing the game, but teaching it to others?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first one. It kind of came from my background in gaming. So I would say from my second year in the NFL to the end, I've been signed to a pro team for gaming, but I was typically competing in like Fortnite, Call of Duty, and Halo. So a lot of first-person shooter games. And then with the extra time away from football this first time around, I was like, man, let me see like how Madden would go, how the views would be, how people would like it. And I started just basically Tony Romoing my games of Madden, saying things that were going to happen before they did and what I'm looking at. And people just gravitated towards it. So that then led me to kickstart my YouTube, and I hired an editor, and then we got him on full time after a few months of like testing it out. And now we're just scaling that and creating new series. Somewhere I'm like taking myself and redoing my career. Somewhere I'm just teaching like the best plays and how to read defenses and everything like that. So it came from a blend of my background in gaming, and then also seeing master classes of other businesses. I'm like, I think I can do this on YouTube, but in a more interactive way.
Okay, so on Madden now, which quarterback do you like operating with the best, and which system do you like the best?
Yeah. So I play with Josh Allen a lot because I think you need to have a guy that can move around in Madden especially. I play with Aaron because of his quick release in the game. I try to, like, you can just do things with him that you can't with other guys. And then Mahomes has something called Hot Route Master, which is kind of cheating if you know football, because then you get like an extra 8 routes that you can audible receivers to. So I basically have everything at my disposal when I'm playing with him. So those three are kind of the blend. And then I actually use the Pittsburgh Steelers playbook when I play.
Why Pittsburgh?
They have a really good empty package that has good pre-snap alignment with spacing of the receivers. So it just, when you get into empty, it makes the defense declare, typically in Madden especially. And so I get to basically exploit like quick out routes, pylon routes, and just stuff that it gets into spacing a little bit different than all of these other playbooks do.
Did you like playing empty yourself? As
I
far
loved
as
it.
Tell me about it.
So some coaches' philosophies when you're getting blitz a lot is to bring more protection in, block it up, and have like 3-man routes. And mine is the opposite. Like, I want to know where I'm getting hot from and throw off of that. And I'm like a creative player. So when I play in real life, I try to scramble, make plays on my feet. And I think when you have 7 people blocking and 7 or 8 people blitzing, it's a lot of people in the box that you can't really navigate through as a scrambler. So I'd rather have 5 of my guys blocking with more space and be able to scramble and create plays.
All right, you're a fascinating dude, and your content is really engaging. But a lot of Jets fans are probably listening right now or watching. Are like, Kurt Benkert, what's the connection here? Well, let's go back to
Yeah,
2021, the summer 2021,
yeah,
when you were a Packer and Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback. I remember actually watching you take snaps there because the Jets practiced with the Packers for a week.
yep.
Um, let's go all the way back, even before summer, though.
Okay.
When the Packers signed you, what was your first interaction with Aaron?
So he wasn't there that summer for OTAs, and that's actually the reason why I got signed. It was me, Jordan Love, and Blake Bortles, and Aaron was having contract talks. And so when I got signed, I was like, okay, I'm just going to be a camp arm, but I'm going to show them what I can do and hopefully find a way to stick around. And then Aaron got back, got his deal done, and they actually ended up cutting Blake and kept me throughout the whole season. So they must have liked what they saw enough in OTAs to keep me around. And then my first time actually meeting him is a good story. I'm going in for what was it? Training, yeah, for training camp, and go to the bathroom, go to take a pee, and he's walking up next to me to the urinal right next to me. That's my first time meeting him, and so he knew like my face from seeing it online, and I obviously knew who he was. He'd been like my childhood favorite player, and so I just look over as we're both peeing, like, "Hey, I'm the new quarterback. Nice to meet you. I didn't expect to meet you this way, but glad to be here, whatever." So it was just a funny moment, and if you know his personality, he obviously enjoys stuff like that. So
Did you make eye contact when you were saying what up?
eye contact. Yeah.
Yeah.
This level the whole time. Yes.
And then how did your
Yeah.
relationship develop from there? Because you have
Yeah.
unique experiences. Because it seems like in a short time you guys grew pretty close.
Yeah. I think it grew so fast because he appreciated that it wasn't just 24/7 football for me. And I have like balance in life and like things outside of football. I love football. Obviously, I'm obsessed with what I do, but I do know how to disconnect. And I think he's had experience with guys probably that don't necessarily know how to do that. And that's who he is as a person, too. Like, he gets his work done. He's always prepared, always ready. He's obviously the top of the game, but he has things outside of football that he's interested in. So he doesn't just want to talk about it all the time. And from the very beginning, I wasn't just like trying to, ask all these football questions and learn from him all the time. So we had common interests outside of football, things that I was into. He knew that I was into gaming at the time and was signed to a pro team. So like he loved that. He used to play Halo back in the day. So that was like our first kind of connection. And then after that, experiences happen, the season happens, media stuff happens. And he loved that I was not afraid to speak my mind in the media, even though I was a practice squad quarterback at the time. That's just kind of how I've always been. So he really appreciated that. And there was like a the thing with the COVID stuff, with the immunization and all of that went down, and I publicly kind of put my neck out there for him, and he really appreciated that. But it was just he was getting dragged that year, like undeservingly. So it just, yeah, we grew through a bunch of different experiences in 1 year.
So how good of a Halo player was Aaron, and what other games did you play uh,
Yeah,
alongside him? Did you play Madden
we
with Aaron at
we
all?
we never played together. We talked about it though. He loved talking about it. He would see the clips that I'd be posting. And at that time, Halo Infinite had just came out, so it was just there's a lot of like stuff on the timeline about that game. But he loved that I was into things outside of football and growing a business outside of football while I was playing. So he obviously thought that was decently cool in his world.
So what would you said if I told you way back when that Rodgers was actually going to end up with the Jets back in 21?
Man, I would have first asked what's the connection and how did it get there because I don't think he does anything without purpose. And so to know that he was going to go and Hackett was going to go and he was going to get some of his guys, then I would have thought like, yeah, there's definitely a chance there. I was kind of shocked though with obviously how they moved on in Green Bay from him, but timing wise, that's just kind of how Green Bay operates. So yeah, I was less shocked about the Green Bay moving on. I would have been decently like shocked about where he ended up, but I think it all makes sense.
Did you know when you're in that situation that, hey, not only
Mhm.
obviously Rodgers is a future Hall of Famer, but Jordan Love, this guy's going to be pretty good himself?
Yeah, so from the beginning with Jordan, I always thought that he had like a unique way of playing and like a different skill set, and that it wasn't really fair for him to have to try to emulate Aaron every day in practice or try to like kind of follow in his favorite plays and stuff. So I was just hoping that at some point this year for Jordan, he would have the chance to have the offense be more his own, have plays be catered more towards him, like the style of things. And I think that changed around like somewhere between week 6 to 8. But I knew he was a talented passer. He just is a little bit unorthodox in how he gets it done. Um, and he's a baller. Like he makes plays all over the field, gives his guys chances, typically knows when to take the risks, when not to. And for it being his first full year, it's been cool to see like his progression because he was not who he is today in year 1, 2, 3. Like it's taken time to get there,
It,
which
and
he would say the same thing.
And Kurt, that's something you continue to preach out there to folks on
Yeah.
social media, and that's not a platform. Social media platforms are often not about patience, but you're saying, hey,
Yeah.
listen, a lot of times it takes quarterbacks necessary time to develop.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're playing. People don't understand that college to the NFL it's like two different games. It's not even like you're playing football that just slowly ramps up. It's a completely different game that you're learning. It's in college, it's about exploiting space, get the ball in the hands of people that have speed, a lot of bubbles. The hashes make such a big difference that people don't understand. Like the wide side of the field in college is a lot wider than the wide side of the field in the NFL. And that changes play calling, splits, like it changes everything. And so in the NFL, you have to really learn as a quarterback, one, protections matter. That's like number one as a quarterback, knowing where you're protected, knowing what problems you have and what answers you have on any given play. And in college, at least in my scheme and a lot of these other schemes that I'm watching, it's full slide, a running back's blocking a D end, and you have to get the ball out quick and quick game. Or it is a tight end and a running back responsible for a D end, and the line is still full sliding. A lot of teams use that full slide, where in the NFL, you would only ever use that when you're getting zero blitz. And so that was my first like light bulb that went off of like, wait a minute, this is a different game of chess than I was ever playing. Yes, we can all throw the ball, we can all run, we can all do these things, but like how you get to those the point of like having successful plays time and time again in situational football, those things were never preached in college, at least where I was. It was just get the ball to your guys in space, read the triangles in the zone, and take man beaters if you got them. And it was simple. It was just as simple as that. And so I just think that stuff takes some guys longer than others. And some guys are more talented, but aren't given the time to get to that point where it's second nature. And that's why you see guys in year 10, 12, 14, 15 start to actually like hit this consistent rhythm that a lot of guys don't get the chance to get to.
Yeah, it's interesting. You were just tweeting about former Jets quarterback Geno Smith, his
Yeah.
development late in his career. As
Yeah.
far as approaching the chessboard, what does Rodgers bring to the table from a mental standpoint?
Yeah.
As a guy who's 40 years old, he's going to be heading into year 41 here in the National Football League.
I think that and is this in regards to like other quarterbacks in the room or just what he has to the table? Like what he brings to the table?
I guess I would say, Kurt, like what he brings out there just in the huddle and then going to the line of scrimmage itself.
Yeah. So there's not a look that he has not seen. And I think that helps a lot because one, I would say when you're preparing for teams, one, you have to be prepared for your own game plan first. And then you have certain plays, especially in a West Coast system, that are very defense dependent, that you have to watch more film for. When you've been in it that long, your film study, I would imagine, gets a little bit slighter, a little bit like not as long because you're knowing exactly what you're looking for. You're not just watching the games just to watch them and feel it out. Like you know exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for the third down tape, the red zone tape, the specific situations on third and 3 to 6, then 8 to 10 plus. You're breaking the game down specifically. So for him, he's just trying to see, okay, in this situation, what are they going to do? Got it. It's in my tool bag. I know that's what I'm to expect this week. Where with younger guys, I feel like there's so much time spent watching all the film possible that you actually slow down the game or you make the game harder to play because you're slowing down your processing because there's so much information overload where in a West Coast system, you really just need to know your stuff, know the few things that they're going to do, and then know the matchups and the players that you're trying to pick apart. So for him, it's that processing that I just think he's not wasting as much time on the things that don't matter when he's preparing. And then on top of that, you have a guy that situationally has been in every situation possible in a game that you can bring those guys in the huddle around and say, look, this is what we're to expect. If it's third and 3, hey, we're going to probably get heavy man here. expect blitz because this is this coordinator's tree. Like he says stuff like that in the meeting room without even having to watch the film because he knows who these guys are. I mean, he knows the names of all the refs, like down to that point. And so when you have that type of guy leading the way, there's just these hidden like attributes that level up everybody else on the team that everybody plays better when you have a guy like that.
What's the quarterback room like with him in there? We saw a glimpse of that during Hard Knocks, and we
Yeah,
got one Jets Drive here, the Jets
yeah,
in-house documentary team. But for a guy who lived it and breathed it every day.
yeah, yeah. So he has such a good ability to flip the switch to like when it's time to get shit done. Sorry,
It's
get
all
stuff
good.
done,
It's a
and
podcast.
yeah, it's a podcast. When it's time to get stuff done, you get it done. And then also when it's time to like be one of the boys, you can be one of the boys. And he does such a good job of navigating that line and going back and forth between that I think it just there's like a calmness to when he's around and obviously healthy and an asset to the team that you just can't even like quantify that. And that's what we felt like with when we were in Green Bay. Like didn't really matter like if we felt like we had a great game plan that week or if it was like maybe they're a better defense than us. Like Aaron's going to lead the way and find a way and navigate it and have to like deviate slightly off course if he has to in a game. Or I think sometimes with a young quarterback, there's no deviation. You're just going to stick to the game plan, and if you guys are going to lose, you're probably going to lose without like risking your job. And so he brings that to the table, and the meeting rooms are just like I don't know. He enjoys having fun. There's mini games and like basketball and darts and all that stuff, but then you can also flip the switch and get to business. So
For you, a guy who can call Aaron his friend, when you're
mhm.
watching September 11th, Jets Bills, he goes down on the fourth play. What goes through your mind?
Yeah. Man, I almost cried for him because I felt that just like sink in my stomach of what I know he's kind of went through to get to that point. And it wasn't like sunshine and roses to become a Jet. It was a lot of like outcast and it was like being kicked out and moved on from, right? Like this was his redemption to why they shouldn't have moved on so soon. And that's how I felt like this was going to play out this season. And to see it get cut short, and one, especially with the way that the roster was, with the way the defense was for the Jets this year, with the young talent, with Brees, with Garrett Wilson, like it felt like for the first time he had some of these things that had been missing, like the defense for one, that he didn't have to be a superhero this year to make things work. He could have played his game, played efficient, played accurate, and you guys would have had a good path. Where things change, obviously, when that injury happens, and the defense, it's like kind of felt like a wasted good defensive year. Um, and so it was just this opportunity that, he talks about it a lot too. Like that year's team will never be that year's team again.
Right.
So to miss the 2023 season with the way that it looked, it's just a missed opportunity to where now, okay, 2024, what's the defense going to look like? What's the offense going to look like? What's the rest of the division going to look like? Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? This year just felt like there were a lot of good question marks in the Jets' favor had he not gotten hurt. And next year it's going to be a little bit harder, but you're going to have Aaron back.
Speak to that about it
Yeah.
being a little bit harder. And what do you think he's facing
Yeah.
as far as 2024 is concerned?
Yeah, so I look at the division and I'm looking at one, the Dolphins look like they're getting worse in free agency. They've lost a lot of guys. I don't know what the draft looks like, obviously, with the amount of picks, but they got to nail their draft to, in my opinion, get better. You're getting better or worse in the NFL every offseason. There's no in between. I'm looking at the Bills and they cleaned house, but they cleaned a lot of older players out. So who are they going to bring in? Who are they going to have? Like you lose some of that veteran leadership. So then I look at it as the beginning of the season is often harder when you have a younger team. It's just kind of how it goes. You look at the Packers last year, that was the same case. So I'm looking at the Bills and the Dolphins like, okay, they still have some of their guys. They still have good players. You're going to have to handle them. But there might be a little bit of an opportunity early in the season before they catch their groove to use some of the veteran leadership and having some of the older guys around with the Jets to get some of those wins early that are a little bit easier. And then I look at the Patriots, and last year was an unfortunate missed opportunity to not be able to take advantage of a bad Patriots team. I think they're going to get better this year. They're going to play a little bit more inspired. Their roster isn't where obviously it needs to be to compete with all the other teams in the division consistently, but I think they're going to play more inspired football, so they're not just going to be a walkover team. But I think this year, again, it looks like it's a good opportunity. I think your guys' team wise, like defense should be better than they were last year. in offense, I just think he's going to play well. Like I think though his Achilles doesn't affect his play style as much as it would other guys. He's had a year to take care of his body on all the other things, which is also sometimes a blessing. So I think it's another really good opportunity for you guys to go and take it. And now it's what's the rigor of the season going to look like? Is there going to be a lot of injuries? Is it what happens? So
That's a really interesting point. You just said you don't think his Achilles is going to impact his play style as much as it would other guys. Can you elaborate on that?
yeah, so he's a scrambler. Sorry, there's a truck rolling by. He's a scrambler, but he doesn't scramble to run. He scrambles to get out of the pocket, scrambles to get out of space. So he scrambles to get out of space, and he doesn't need that extra burst necessarily to change to change a game. He just needs to evade that first guy. And typically, I feel like in Achilles, yeah, you lose some of your burst, but he's got enough juice in the tank to make guys miss and enough savviness to play within that one by one frame that he talks about, like the yard by yard box that he likes to play in. Like that precision passing game is not going to change. Might be a little slower on scrambles, but he's still going to get out of the pocket and he's still going to make plays on the run. But you just might not see him break off a 20-yard run or whatever it might be. But knowing him, he's gonna do it. And he's gonna say "Told you so" when he sees this. So
everybody talks about the importance of continuity along that offensive line. What
yeah.
do you think about some of the additions the Jets have made in free agency, and how can Aaron help those guys as far as protections are concerned? You got Tyron Smith, the 8-time Pro Bowler, a 5-time All-Pro, the 2-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time second-team All-Pro coming in at left tackle. You got John Simpson at left guard, and then Morgan Moses returns at right tackle. That, on paper, is 3 new starters.
Yeah, that's a stout line, and I think it's a lot of like those are big dudes. It's not just like they're agile dudes; they're big dudes. They take up a lot of space, and I think for Aaron, the way that he plays, he's comfortable with guys being in his lap. He's comfortable with guys being pushed into him. He doesn't play as well when he's got free rushers. So I think those are the types of guys, offensive play style wise, that like, look, it's okay. You can get pushed back and get beat, but you're not just going to get like ripped through and let guys free. And I think part of letting guys free, which you saw last year, like Zach he's not at the level of what Aaron was in protections. And Aaron can take 2 or 3 different protections that are talked about in the week and blend them together mid-game to get exactly what he wants, even if it's like not talked about. And he has his answers. He's always prepared with his protections. It's what he's so good at that people I don't think really talk about enough because of how accurate he is. But he's really good at taking hits off, buying that extra half a second to get the ball out. And he's also comfortable with like standing in there and delivering last second. So I just think you're going to see some plays pop up this year that obviously didn't even have the chance to come to fruition last year, just off of protection alone between the beefier O-line and the rules that he's going to be applying to them when they're picking up pass pro problems.
You mentioned Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall before, ascending stars in the National Football League, entering year 3. What else do you think the Jets should do around those guys? Tyler Conklin is a good tight end. I thought he played very well last year, 61 catches as well, and his production should be interesting with a guy like Rodgers firing the football. But what other offensive skill pieces do you think the Jets should be interested in here as the offseason progresses?
Yeah, you guys had picked 10 in the first round, I believe.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I had one mock that if Brock Bowers falls, I know like I don't like taking tight ends top 10 or top. I don't even like taking them really in the first round if you can get that value later. But he's really good. Like he's a really good player, and I think for someone like Aaron with his play style, having an explosive tight end with a good catch radius could be just a lot of really easy first downs on third down. So I look at it from like that perspective. And then I also look at like you have a Dunze who, if he falls to 10, I mean, you can never go wrong taking a game-changing receiver, in my opinion, that early. I don't know what the defense looks like at this point, but I mean, I think Aaron's gone his entire career without having a receiver taken top 10.
Crazy.
Maybe first round.
Yeah.
So to think of it from that perspective, what happens if you have a Garrett Wilson on one side and then an Ndunze if he drops, or a Neighbors if he drops? I think it could be pretty cool. You look at Joe Burrow and the success that he's had. He has a loaded receiver room with Jamar Chase, he had T. Higgins, they had Tyler Boyd, like Mixon. Aaron can operate at a really high level with guys like that around him, and I would like to see maybe one more piece of firepower.
Veteran quarterbacks, we talk about Brady in the past. He likes a
Mhm.
certain type of receiver.
Yeah.
Is Rodgers the same way, or like what would the transition be for a young guy coming in and playing with a guy like Aaron?
Yeah. So the first thing is being aware of all of his signals and all of his like one-on-one checks. That's probably number one. There's signals and plays and routes that were not ran this year because Aaron wasn't there doing it. That great example, Devontae Adams had a route in the red zone. I think it was like week 15, 13, 14, something like that in 2021, where they just called a route that they had from 4 years prior on a whim on an old signal that they scored a touchdown on because the leverage was not what they had predicted in the film room. He was supposed to run I think a go or something, and he ended up running like a delay slant. And that's something that was never talked about. I mean, if we had ran what was called, it would have been stonewalled. And so there were no answers. So he went and found an answer that they had from years past. So to have a guy like that, one, I think he has that in Garrett Wilson. They're preparing him to be that guy. But you have to be ready for those signals that come up that maybe aren't in the game plan, but you talked about a month ago. That is a big adjustment for him to start trusting you. And once he has your trust, I mean, it's over. So I think for a guy like him, he basically is playing Madden out there when he's playing. He's got the full playbook available. He's got his full experience available. He can audible anything at any time if he wants to. And so the younger guys, when you can get caught up to that speed and get on that same level, you'll play earlier and you'll play better.
What can you tell us about the Nathaniel Hackett / Aaron Rodgers system? Because we didn't have the opportunity to see it last year when Rodgers goes down. And obviously the Jets end up playing with 4 different quarterbacks, and they start 13 different offensive line combinations.
Yeah. So I would say the best analogy I can use for those two, I would say Hackett. Have you ever seen like my daughter's like 3 right now, and she's loves these coloring books, but you have to like draw the lines and then you can color in them, like you connect the dots in color.
Yes,
I would say,
my daughter's 4.
okay, so you're in the thick of it. So
Oh, yeah.
I would say Nathaniel Hackett connects the dots, draws the lines, and makes that stencil. Aaron will go color it in within a palette, however he wants to. Where you have other guys like the guys that you had last year, I don't think we're coloring it in. And I don't know if the way that the offense was designed would have really helped many other quarterbacks because it was specifically set for Aaron. And so I love Hackett to death. I think him and Aaron are going to do a great job this year. I think that the way that it's set up for Aaron is not set up to work for other guys. But it kind of felt like all eggs in the basket for Aaron this past year. So I would say you're going to know within a range of what to expect with Aaron, and every game will be a little bit different. But Hackett, man, he does such a good job of prepping, of giving you all the information you need, of every look you need all week long, what to expect. This is why we're attacking it the way we are. And even though it may not be the best way to attack it one week over another, you at least know he has reasoning behind why he's doing it that way, and that's what he believes in. And so with that, Aaron is given all of that, and then it's his job to navigate and weave throughout the game, going back and forth with the coach to figure out the best way to navigate that game. And I think that's something that people don't understand about NFL football is like some guys play like a robot, and those guys I don't think have like deep success throughout the season. There's only one guy, and I think it's Peyton Manning, that played like a robot that found a way to have success at a high level for a long time. I would say Brady somewhat like that, but he also lend himself more to being like an artist from time to time, especially in situational football. Aaron plays the game like a straight up artist. And so for someone to give him the canvas, give him the lines, this is what we're expecting. These are the shades and palettes and everything you can use or use in this drawing, this piece of art, go do your thing. That's how Aaron operates, and that's how he's successful. And I think you'll see that this year. I really do.
He's got an interesting way about himself. Anybody who's been with him inside the locker room speaks to that.
Yeah.
Can you talk about Aaron, and did you always see a chip on his shoulder, an inherent chip on his shoulder? And what about his position specifically heading into 2024, where he's going to turn 41 in December? He's coming off the Achilles, and everybody's going to be counting him out probably more than ever.
Yeah. He is one guy I would not bet against for sure. I think he will do things just because you said he couldn't do it to prove a point. And I think that's what's made him so successful. He's had that from the beginning before he even got into the NFL when he was in junior college, getting into like a Division I program. Like he's had that. That's how he's wired, and so he's wired that way. He's extremely talented. He's only gotten better, and he is a master of his game. And I think a guy like him, he's not like a Lamar Jackson that needs his legs and like a Russell Wilson that needs his legs to operate. Like he could be pinpoint accurate and delivering with a tight space around him for a long time. And I think he could play as long as he wants to. Just like Tom Brady, I think he could have kept playing. I think the game you do need to move around a little bit, and I think Aaron does that. But I think he's gonna bring all of that together this year, and I think the guys in the locker room are gonna elevate because of it.
As someone who enjoyed his experience with Aaron so much, would you like to see the Jets add a quarterback, a rookie quarterback here on day 3 of the draft? Obviously, they signed Tyrod Taylor, an accomplished guy who's had a number of stops in the National Football League. This is his 7th organization, but and Taylor, you have definitely upgraded the backup spot. Would you like the Jets to add a young guy as someone who's been in that position before?
Yeah, I think, and I don't know, like a day 3 pick. Like I think a day 3 pick undrafted guy makes sense for like what the goals are right now. I think if you waste anything earlier, it's an opportunity cost that you're losing on another player that could be a stud, especially in such a deep receiver class. Like there's going to be guys day 2 going all day long that can play. So yeah, I do think though, like if a guy like Spencer Rattler falls, I could see him benefiting heavily from being around Aaron. I don't think he will. I think he's getting more kind of trending up a little bit. I think it'll be like an early day 2, but I could see like a young guy with talent that's maybe just a little raw really benefit in expediting his development and transition to the NFL by going and being in a room with him. Because the footwork, like everything starts with footwork. Everything starts with like progression, knowing everything, understanding the line, understanding the rules. And Aaron is so much of a master of that stuff that we just forget about that because he throws well. But those things are the details that he does not miss. And I think being around him every day for me, I spent 3 years with Matt Ryan, and he was awesome for me. I learned a lot. I learned how to play the game from like a methodical way. But Aaron took it to a new level and a different understanding for me that like actually it resonated even more. So I felt like I took a bigger jump from that 1 year there than I did in the 3 years trying to figure it out in Atlanta. So I could see it being a huge benefit to a young kid.
Well, I've had a lot of fun, man, catching up with you, and your content is tremendous. Hey,
I appreciate it.
Why don't you remind fans where they can find you right now, as far as because you're on all these different platforms?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I use them all a little bit different, but it's just Kurt Benkert, KurtBenkert everywhere. Twitter is more of my opinions and my takes and kind of what's on my mind. YouTube is more methodical with teaching football. TikTok, who the hell knows what happens on TikTok. And then I live stream on Twitch from time to time when I play Madden. So it's kind of everything across the board.
And what would you tell people about your journey as a guy who grew up in Florida, went to East Carolina, you make the transfer to the Wahoos at the University of Virginia, and then you have a number of stops in the National Football League, and now you're making your way here across all these kind of content platforms?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that I learned is that you have to take matters into your own hands. And for me, like I had played for 5 years, but I'd just been sitting and waiting for an opportunity. And I decided that I needed to start doing things outside of football that I could move forward and that I had control over. Because at the end of the day in football, I was still relying on someone either missing a game, getting hurt, or something to see the field. And that's just what it was going to be as an undrafted guy. So I think you have to not be afraid to pave your own way and do your own thing and do things that you enjoy doing. And if you can monetize them on the way, then that's obviously a plus.
Awesome advice. We hope we can catch up here soon, Kurt.
Of course. We'll be in touch. Have a good one.